This is an exciting week for programming. I always look forward to this one every year because this is the week we write our first program. We write our first program and turn it in this week. So far, we've been doing these little 5 question quizzes, and they're only worth like 25 points each. And we've done like two of those. And we did the little 10 point let's have serial assignment, which is really kind of a preview of pseudocode that we're going to get into in the coming weeks here. But this is a program, and the program is worth 100 points. So this is worth more than everything we've done up to this point. And we will write another program like 2 weeks from now, and then a couple of weeks after that. So every other week or so. Sometimes we'll have back-to-back weeks we write programs. Not very often. Most of the time, we got a week in between there. And every week we'll learn new stuff about programming. And so, like next week, when we don't have a program, we'll learn something new, which we will use in the program the week after that. So every week you need to learn what is the programming commands that we're learning, because you know you're going to have them in a program sometime coming up soon. So, all right. With that, how we doing on attendance here? We should have 27 students, and we've got, let's see, 20. Missing quite a few. Still got a couple of cameras that are off. I'll be able to count your presents. Uh, but yeah, we'll go through some fun stuff this week. We'll write our first program. Oh, before I forget, open Buzz now, because we're gonna do an activity together in Buzz. So go ahead and open Buzz up on another tab. Be ready for that, because we're gonna do a short program together as a class. Yeah, give you a moment to get Buzz opened up there. Open Buzz and go to lesson 1.03 while you're there. 1.03. And then you can come back to the meet. I'm having a fire drill. Okay, you got a couple more minutes to open up the lesson, guys. I got to go outside for a fire drill. So uh, we'll take a time out. I'm going to leave the meet running, and I'm gonna run outside for a fire drill. I'll be about a 5 minute intermission here for our class. So I'll be right back. All right, that's a close one. Does my hair look singed? Yeah. Whew. Okay, had an extended amount of time to open up Buzz and be ready. Well, I got to go out and get a little breath of fresh air out in the nice cool. It's kind of cool this morning. Feels nice out there. But yeah, welcome. And we had a chance for a few people that may have been struggling to get in here while we had a fire drill here, but we have survived. Let's get into Buzz and take a look at what we had this week. Like I said, I'm excited. It's our first real program, and I want to go over this with you today. But first, we're going to learn what we're doing in this program, how to actually program this stuff. Looking at our grade screen, which is where I suggest you always start the week. Let's go to the grade screen in Buzz. You should see that you've had 3 assignments. Let's have serial, the 1.01, 1.02. Those, you should have a grade for all 3 of those. Should have. You may or may not have a submitted date for this, because if you did this first one on Google form, I just transferred the grade. But you should have a grade for all 3 of those. Shows the due dates. If there's anything missing, that means you didn't get that submitted. So you need to go back and make sure you get that turned in. This week, September 14th, 1.03 printing strings. If you ever get confused on what's due this week, go to the grade screen in Buzz, and you can see right here the due dates. You can see what's due next week and what's due the week after that. The 1.05 is going to be a program as well. So I'll get the template for that created and ready for you by then, but we don't have that one. 1.04 is just going to be another 5-question quiz like we've done the first 2 weeks. But this week, we're writing a program. So let's go back to the activity screen and check out that lesson that you should have pulled up. We're going to look at this together, and then there'll be a point where I have you go, and we're going to play a little bit with programming this morning. So printing strings. For the purposes of this course, take everything you know about printing and chuck it out the window. Now, I don't mean your printer. Don't throw your printer out the window. But in programming, to print something doesn't mean we're going to put ink on paper and go have something in our hand, like send it to a printer. That's what we've known print means, to go send something to the printer. For programming purposes, print means display this on the screen. Okay, so when you hear us talk about print, it has nothing to do with a printer. Print means show me something on the screen. So after completing this lesson, we're going to be able to demonstrate an understanding of the characteristics of strings, and we're not talking about something the kitty likes to play with. Write a computer program using the print function. So guess what our programming assignment is going to be this week? Identify and describe types of errors. All right, page 2. The print function is in Python is used anytime you want the program to display something to the screen, which is often, unless you're a fan of blank screens. This is what you want your user to see. In a nutshell, if you don't print it, they won't see it, right? So here's our first practice problem. And in Buzz, you can go to page 2 of the lesson, and you can write code in these windows. This is a good place to practice each week as it's teaching you stuff. You can go in here and change this code. You can add to this code. You can play with this code and see what you can learn without having to open the idle window for practice. Now, when you write your program, you should click this idle button and open up a fresh window that's just ready for you to go. But let's see, read the code, try to predict the output, and run the program. Look at the output. Okay. Hashtag print example. When you put this little hashtag, this pound sign out here, Python ignores that. Python totally ignores that. It means this is a comment for people to read. It's nothing the computer should be concerned with. So it skips that. Print example. But now we know what this program is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a print example. Here's our define main statement. That says, hey, Python, this is where the main function of my program is. This is where the meat of it is. So we're defining with the DEF statement, main, and then we put 2 parentheses and a colon. Here's our print statement. Now notice there's been 4 spaces. Everything inside the main function has to be spaced over, has to be indented 4 spaces. 4 spaces is what's commonly used, so just getting the habit of 4 spaces would be great. 4 spaces indented over, so it lets it know everything that is indented over here is part of the main function. And then down here it says, okay, I'm through writing my program, run my main function. This is the end. I'm done with it. Go ahead and run it. Let's look at what our function is. Print. This is a print statement in Python. Let's run that. Look, this is a print statement in Python. See, it didn't send it to the printer. It sent it to the screen. So we can see the output says this is a print statement in Python. Now let's look at how we got that done. Every time you use a print statement, you have to use parentheses. Print. If I put another statement here, print, I have to put parentheses. Otherwise, no error there. See, it actually printed parentheses here. Print, I have to have parentheses. And then, if I wanted to say, here is another line to print, that's going to give me an error. Because if I want it to print literally what I typed, and this is a time when literally is the correct word, I want it to literally print these words. I have to put them in quotes. I have to tell Python, quote me here. Quote me. Quote exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying here's another line to print, period. Quote me. So I put it in quotes, and then when I run it, it actually prints exactly what I said. Literally, letter for letter, space for space, exactly what I typed. Here's another line to print. In quotes, and have to put it in parentheses. All right, let's go over here. Slide 2. Under the first print statement, type another. It'll display the message, I am printing. Okay. Print. I am printing. Bad input. I can't just say print. I am printing. I have to say parentheses, quote me exactly. I am printing. Quote, run program. I am printing. Now notice if I go inside the quotes and put 5 spaces, uh, 5 spaces. Yeah, I put 5 spaces right there and this in semicolons. When I run, it prints those 5 spaces. And it printed this because this is also inside my quotes. So whatever is inside the quotes, it will print exactly. Because I want it to literally quote me. Now, if I'm doing math, I don't have to use quotes. So just get ready. If I say print 44, it'll print 44. I didn't have to quote that because these are numbers. And it says, oh, that's a number. Okay, I'll just print the number. It can do that. But if I'm printing words, characters, see, these aren't words, these are characters. This is a character. I have to put it in quotes to literally print this. Let's look at slide 3. This is a print statement in Python. I'm printing. Will this print? Run. We have an error on line 6. What happened on line 6? Why didn't the line 6 not print? Line 4 printed, line 5 printed. I put my print statement, I put it in parentheses, just like I did the other ones. Why did will this print not print? Yeah, Mia.
There's no quotation marks.
We did not quote it. Yeah, it thinks, it's like, is this a number? Is this math? What are you doing? No, if I put it in quotation marks, that fixed it. Yes. If we have words, characters, something like that, anything that we're treating like, even if we said like box 1, box 1 is not math. We're labeling this box as box number 1 over here. We have to put that in quotes. If it's a number that we're not using like a number, we're using it like a name. Box 1 is using, we're not doing math with box 1. Put it in quotes anytime. Good job. All right, let's look at page 3. Oh, wait a minute. Was there something at the bottom of page 2? I didn't check. Great job. You just printed and debugged your first program. As you've seen, Python's print function is pretty straightforward. Just use print and what you want it to print, as long as you put it in quotes and parentheses. So let's look at page 3. String what? In programming, a string, and we call this a string, it's a sequence of letters, numbers, spaces, and symbols. It's alphanumeric. That means any combination of letters, numbers, symbols. It's things that's not numbers, not math numbers. We can include numbers, like I said, if we're saying post office box 28. That's a string because we're talking about using them like alphanumeric, like words. We're not doing math. We're not adding post office 28, box 28 to post office box 30 and getting post office box 58. We don't do that. That's a number used as a word. So anything used as words like this, alphanumeric, right? Which means not numeric, not numbers. A string could be a single letter, it could be a word, it could be a whole phrase. To make Python print strings exactly as you wrote them, you must put them in quotation marks. That's what we were just saying. A string within quotation marks is called a string literal. It's a series of keyboard characters within the opening and closing question marks. Because Python will literally print what you type, no matter what. It's a literal, string literal. If I go back here to page 2, and I go back and look at this program, and I change in quotes to be this with some symbols, it'll literally print what I typed, even though it makes no sense. It's not words. It's not math. It's just, but it's in the quotes. So it said, okay, I'll quote you, even if you don't make any sense. Literally will print what you type. So that's why we call it a string literal. Roll over the code to see how the print function's used. So first, you have the word print. That's the actual function created in Python. And some programmer wrote that when someone types print, Python knows to, okay, whatever they're going to have here, I'm going to display to the screen. And behind the scenes in the Python program is all the commands needed for Python to display this to the screen, whatever you're telling it to print. Then the string value. It's inside quotes, it's inside parentheses, and Python knows take this and display it to the screen. So it'll display, this will print because the print function instructions are built in. Someone else wrote that and you get to use it. Reminder, always be sure to type print followed by parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you can type anything you want, but be careful if you forget the quotes while printing a string literal, the computer won't know what to do. It'll be confused. So print statement example, print, quote, and you can put a space there or not put a space there. Python doesn't care. Python doesn't care about these extra spaces. And I'll show you that when we get to it in a minute. Quote, parentheses, quote, are we having fun yet? Question mark, quote, parentheses, are we having fun yet? Question mark. Because that's literally what we told it to do. Okay, page 4. So this is where you guys are going to get into this lesson here on Buzz. It's time to say hello world. This is the traditional way to start as a programmer. In fact, there's a collection of hello world programs. There's a website here that I've already opened up that over here on the left are hundreds of programming languages. And if you want to see how to write hello world in, let's say, Bean Shell, there's a programming language called Bean Shell. This is how you write hello world. You go print hello world, parentheses with a semicolon after the end, put it in quotes. That's very similar. But look right underneath it, this programming language called Beef. To write hello world in Beef, you got a using system, semicolon, namespace, hello world, open squiggly parentheses, class program, open squiggly, static void main parentheses, another squiggly, console.writeLine parentheses, quote, hello world, quote, parentheses, semicolon, squiggly, squiggly, squiggly. That's a lot just to put hello world on the screen. So, but this is hundreds. Oh, look at there. BIT, no comments are possible in this language. This is how you write hello world in a BIT command language. Woo, man, glad we're not learning to program in that. Bits, BITZ, Blender, but yeah, oh my goodness, BMC ready. All that just to print hello world to the screen. So there's, byte size, look at there. This is hexadecimal. C7, 3C, 2A, 3C, 2A, all of this. So there it is in hundreds of different languages, how to write a hello world program. All right, so we're going to watch the video below to see how to write our first program, and then we're going to do this. So we're going to open up Buzz. You should already have that open, and we're going to open up that idle button right up here to open up our first programming window and do this. But first, let's watch this little video. Get the instructions of what it wants us to do.
Let's write our first Python program. To start, use the pound sign to add some comments. Include your name, date, program purpose, and other important information. Next, add a blank line followed by the def main statement. This is a Python keyword that tells your program, start here. For the body of the program, we'll use the print function to display the string literal hello world. Make sure to indent this line with 4 spaces or Python won't recognize it as a command. Finally, end your program with the main function, so Python knows you're done. When you select Run Program, the program should output and print hello world.
All right, so we're going to do this now.
Let's
Stop. I already showed that. Okay, we're going to do this now. We're actually going to write our first program for the Hello World thing right here. So the instructions are right below here. Open Python idle, add comments, open the main function, indent and print, close the main function, run your program. So I want you to switch over to Buzz, click on this menu button up here. It says idle, and open up your Python window. This will be where we're going to write our programs in this class. So let's start with our Python window. So let me give you a moment to get that open. Give you a moment to get that open. Then you can come back to the meet, or if you know what you're doing, go right ahead. But the first thing we're going to do with every program is put our name, date, and purpose of program. Every program should start with that. So we need to put our name at the top, and we do that with comments. Comments. That means we have to put a hashtag before our name. Put that pound symbol, which is a shift 3. Then today's date. Today is September 8th. You can put it as 9/8 or type September 8 or however you want to put the date. And then we're going to put like first program, or you can put Hello World program. You can put practice program, whatever you want to put there. It doesn't matter what you put because Python's going to ignore it. So this is something that like you could hand to someone if you printed it in a printer and say, here it is, and they'd know it's your program, know what date you wrote it, and know what the program's supposed to do. All right, then go down to line 5. And if you're still typing that, I'll stop after this line here. We don't have to leave a blank line on line 4. Python does not care if line 4 has code or skips it. But to make it easier to read our program, we should use spacing just to make it easier to read. So once you got your name on line 1, the date on line 2, and the name of your program on line 3, just skip line 4 to make it easier to read. And on line 5, we're going to define our main function, DEF main, put a space between DEF and main. And then you have to have open parentheses, close parentheses, and a colon, because that's how the define works. DEF for define. And I got it on the screen if you need to see it. DEF. We're defining our main function. All right, so you should have Buzz opened up. You should have this idle window open up at this point. And you should be practicing this with us. Remember, the idle window is found in our lesson. So if you wasn't on a lesson, if you was on assignment instead of a lesson, you didn't see that idle window. So letting you know where it's at. This is not our assignment for this week, but this is teaching us how to do the assignment for this week. For those of you that are curious, this is not our assignment. We'll look at our assignment at the end of class, which is coming up really fast. Define main. Then after that, 4 spaces, print, parentheses, quotes, hello world, exclamation, quote, parentheses. Make sure you have your print statement in parentheses and hello world in quotes. And after your print statement, then you can end your program with that main parentheses. And again, I went ahead and put a space on line 7. Python doesn't care. I just make it easier to read. My main function's over. I'm ready for it to run my program. But put your hello world into your main function and then try to run it. See if it prints hello world at the bottom. And by the way, your main statement on line 8, you got to take the spaces out. It should not be indented. It should be the same spacing as the define statement on line 5. The print statement has to be 4 spaces over. The main statement and the define main statement, neither one should be indented. So All right, so if anyone's getting errors, make sure that your print statement has 4 spaces in front of it, that you used quotes inside the parentheses, and make sure you don't have anything outside the quotes. If you have anything outside your quotes, it could cause a problem. Hello world exclamation mark should all be inside your quotes. And it should show hello world as your output at the bottom. So nothing should be outside your quotes. All right, we need to move on. I hate to cut that short, but that fire drill kind of put a crunch on us. The directions for this are on page 4. If you struggled, open idle, add your comments. It goes through step by step on how to do that. But we need to move on real quick because we're going to run out of time real fast. Bugs happen. Let's talk about bugs. Let's see, was there anything at the bottom of that I missed? No, that was it. Why do we call them bugs in programming? Well, this is actually an interesting story and why we call this bugs. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. That's how we learn things. The more mistakes and errors you make while coding, the more opportunities you have to practice and learn what can go wrong. But eventually, we want it to be right by the time we're finished the program. Programmers refer to their errors as bugs, and one of their jobs is to fix bugs. So we call this debugging. And let's see, how did that get started? Well, there's been lots of speculation, but here's the most common theory that goes with it. Grace Hopper, who was a programmer back early on in the 40s and 50s, back when you had to turn cranks and had to move wires, and they were huge machines the size of a room, and you actually had to physically turn levers and stuff on there. She was testing a program on the Mark II at Harvard, great big computer. And the problem turned out not to be a problem with the code. When it got an error trying to run the program, there was actually a moth that had gotten into the machine. It wedged itself inside the machine, and they're looking there and trying to figure out why it's not doing what it does. And they found this moth inside the machine. So once they got the moth out and ran the program, it worked fine. So they documented it. They taped the moth into a book. And here's a copy of this picture of this notebook they had. They taped the moth in there, and they said the first actual case of a bug being found in a program. And since then, that stuck. When we have an error in a program, we call it a bug, even though literally it was a bug at the beginning. So we call it bug, and we call it debugging programs. So here's Grace Hopper. She was born in 1906, lived till 92. She was deserving of the title of most likely to coin a term. She's credited for popularizing the term debugging, as well as compiler. She created the first compiler. She's known as Amazing Grace for her obvious contributions to programming, as well as her work as a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. Grace Hopper was a Rear Admiral in the Navy. All right, page 6. Preventing programming problems. So it's helpful to know when there's errors, and let's go over the 3 most common errors. The first one would be a syntax error. This is when you've broken a programming language rule. Right? I mean, written languages have rules like spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Like in English, if we wrote this sentence shouldn't have any errors. Well, it does have errors. There should be an apostrophe, an N. Any is spelled wrong. It should be A-N-Y. Should have a period at the end. That has errors. We broke the rules of writing the English language. In programming, if we put print hello world like this, we've broken the rules of programming. It should have a parentheses and a quote. Quote, parentheses to end it. It doesn't have that, and that'll give us a syntax error. Runtime errors, when you run the program and it gives you this error, usually that means there's a problem with a value. It wasn't a problem with there's a syntax error in line 6, but maybe you did this, print 11 divided by 0. And Python goes, wait, there's an error there. That's a runtime error because I don't know how to divide by 0. Nobody does, because you can't divide by 0. You correct that to 11 divided by 17. Now Python's happy. Not an error anymore. It'll give you whatever decimal that ends up to be. Then there's logic errors. Now, these are just the most common types of errors. A logic error means you run your program and Python says, hey, there's no errors. It runs fine. But you look at what it produced and you went, that's not what it was supposed to do. Something's wrong. Well, all the programming part is right, but you might have did something in the wrong order, or you typed something wrong. Like you ran this and it printed grass is purple. And you went, okay, wait a minute, grass is not purple. Why did it say grass is purple? And then you look back and you're like, oh, I typed grass is purple instead of grass is green. Purple was supposed to be on a different line. It wasn't a programming error. It was a logic error. It just didn't produce what it's supposed to. So if you're stuck, here's some tips. Check your spelling and capitalization because Python is case sensitive. If you capitalize print, it's not going to work. Check your punctuation. Did you miss a quote? Did you miss a parentheses? Check your spacing. Did you not put 4 spaces in front of the print? Got to be spaced properly. Check before and after. Sometimes it'll tell you there's an error in line 8, and actually it's on line 7. Sometimes it's right above or below it. And it may help to read it out loud. That sounds like a weird story, but you may hear it and go, oh, wait a minute. Print, parentheses, quote, hello world, parentheses. Like, oh, wait, I should have another quote. Maybe we hear it when we read out loud. All right, last page of this. Post-mortem review. This is an important part of our programming. Professional programmers develop a strong habit for early success, the post-mortem review. This is a short statement where you basically, when you're done with your program, you evaluate, how did it go? Could I have done better? Here is a post-mortem review that we will do every program. What was the purpose of your program? So you reflect on your program and you say, oh, well, the purpose of my program was to say happy birthday to my sister. It gave me a chance to practice my Python skills. How could your program be used in the real world? Well, I'm going to show it to my sister on my birthday, and it'll be like the birthday card that I programmed instead of buying. Cool. What's a problem that you ran into, and how did you fix it? Well, I kept typing happy birthday without the quotation marks, and it wouldn't work. When I realized I had the syntax wrong, I fixed it, and now it worked. And then describe one thing you do differently next time you write a program. Well, I learned it's important to pace myself and pay attention to the details. So when I got that syntax wrong, I learned what happens when I don't use quotation marks. And now I know I need to pay attention so I don't leave out important information. PMR. All right. Our assignment is actually found right here on the end of the lesson. Follow the assignment template. Now, you do not have to get this assignment template. This just opens up a window and you'd have to copy all this. I have created that for you. Let me show you this. In our Google Classroom, if you go to the classwork tab and you look at this week, this is week 5. Do this week in Buzz. Here is the assignment template. Be sure to turn in the program file from idle along with this template. Let's look at the assignment. Here is this week's assignment. This assignment has 2 parts. The first part, the programming. Write a program to display a message to the screen. So we have to pay attention. Every time you write programs, like if you work for a company, you'll have parameters. Here's what the program must do. Or this is for our customer, and this is what they want the program to do. So you have to pay attention. Your program should follow these rules. First, use Python idle. We know that. We have to use idle. Every program, use comments to have your name, date, and a short description. Okay? Decide on the message you would like to display the screen. So you got some choices here. Maybe you want to print your favorite poem, your favorite song, a few sentences sharing information about you, reasons you love to make your brother do chores, whatever. I don't care what you want to put in there. Make sure you set up your define main statement. Don't forget the parentheses and colon, or it won't work. Define main. Use at least 5 print statements to display your message to the screen. Now, if you need 10 or 15, I don't care how many print statements, as long as there are at least 5. And then conclude your program with the main statement. Make sure you indent things correctly. Make sure you run your program to make sure it works. So try to fix any errors. So this is what your program should have. It's basically your main state, define main, 5 print statements in the end. Here's an example. Somebody else wrote this program. Hello world, Mr. Brock is the greatest. No, really, I mean it. I need more lines. There, that should do it. There it is, 5 print statements. Just an example. save your program and attach the file in Buzz along with this template, because on this template, you're going to answer these 4 questions. That postmortem review. What was the purpose of your program? How can it be useful in the real world? What's the problem you ran into? Maybe this first one you don't run into any. If you pay attention, I didn't have any errors this time. That's great. Just type that as your answer. I didn't have any errors. And describe one thing you might do differently next time. Like, oh, next time I'd like to make more print lines and print my love letter to my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. I just give it some thought. There's no wrong answers as long as you're actually answering these questions, right? So, and this is worth 20 points. So don't skip this. 20 points. The program's worth 100, but 20 of it is this right here. So this is worth 80. This is worth 20. All right. And to write your program, you're going to click the idle button, which I've got this idle button open right here. And make sure this is, when you get done with this, hashtag Mr. Brock, and I write this whole program, save it. Click right there. When you hit save, it's going to save this program as a zip file. And just attach that zip file in Buzz. Go to Buzz. Right here's where we turn it in. Attach a file. Attach the zip file and attach that template. After you fill in those 4 questions, attach the template. So there you go. Fill in the questions. That is the first assignment. If you have trouble with that, email me, or let's see, Friday is a B day this week, so we'll have class on Wednesday if anyone needs to come to class. For that, by the way, just to clarify, because it could get confusing. If you're wondering, do I have to be here Wednesday? Use the grade in Hack. Whatever's in Hack, when you do your grade check tomorrow in advisory, whatever's in Hack is what determines if you have to be here Wednesday. Because you may go to Buzz and you may have a different grade than Hack because you had something to do last night. And if Buzz has already graded that, that may change your grade in Buzz. Buzz is the most accurate grade. Buzz has everything that you've done, including what was last night. Hack doesn't, because I have to type it in the Hack, and I'm not going to do that until later in the week. By Friday, your Hack grade will match your Buzz grade on Friday. But when I look to see if you have to be here Wednesday, I'll look and see, okay, what was your grade in Hack, which is really a week behind, right? Because whatever you did that was due yesterday is not in Hack yet, unless you did it early. If you got it done by Friday, it's in Hack. So that's basically what I look at. What you have done Friday, put your grade in. I try not to change your grade today and tomorrow because I know you got to do the grade checks and all that. Although sometimes I will if it raises your grade, right? Because I'll give you a break there. If you've raised your grade this weekend, I try to give you that credit because maybe your grade was below 70 on Friday, but you've turned stuff in, and so now you're good. If I have time, I try to go in and update that. So that's the thing. So whatever it says in Hack, go by that. Now, if you show up Wednesday and you've got everything turned in by then, you may say, hey, do I have to be here, Mr. Brock? I got it all turned in yesterday. Okay, you turned it in, but it's turned in. You're good now. I can dismiss you if you got everything done and you don't have anything to do. So, all right, guys, I'll let Programming 1 get out of here. We ran a little late because of the fire drill, but Programming 2 is coming in.